Episode 1, The Ridden. She died on a Wednesday. I remember because the rain wouldn't stop. Not at the funeral. Not when I sealed the coffin. Not when I pressed her yellow ribbon into her hands and told her goodbye. 5 years. That's how long it's been since I said her name out loud. Lena, it still hurts. And for a long time, I told myself the pain would fade. That grief was just a shape you learn to live around. But grief has a voice. And 2 nights ago, it started laughing. It began at 3:12 a.m. I was outside, fixing the broken fence near the back of the yard. The wind carried something strange high, soft, like the giggle of a child trying not to be caught. I frowned. See, it came again, and I knew that laugh. It was hers. I ran to her grave the next morning. It's just beyond the garden, under the oak tree she used to climb. The soil looked untouched, undisturbed, but the ground was warm, not sun-warmed. Breathing. I told myself I was imagining things, that the wind, the grief, the loneliness had finally cracked me open. That's what the therapist said would happen if I didn't process. But the next night, I heard her voice. Daddy, is soft, fragile, coming from beneath the earth. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed a shovel. My hands shook. My body didn't feel like my own. Every strike into the soil echoed louder than thunder. By the time I reached the coffin, my knees were bleeding. I opened it slowly, terrified I'd see what 5 years of death looks like. But Lena wasn't dead. She wasn't alive either. She was whole, her skin pale, but unbroken, her dress still clean, her hair still braided, and around her wrist, the yellow ribbon, still tied. And she was smiling, not a peaceful smile, not a sad one, not the smile knew me, expected me. My breath caught. I dropped to my knees. Then her fingers moved. Just one hand, just slightly, enough to point toward the house. I turned. The upstairs window, one to her old room, was wide open. I didn't leave the coffin. I didn't scream, because when I turned back, her smile was wider, and her lips were beginning to part. Episode 2, The mouth that wasn't hers. Her lips kept moving, not trembling, not twitching, shaping, forming a word without breath, without lungs, without life. I leaned closer, trembling, and I swear to God, she mouthed home. Then something moved under her tongue. I stumbled back, nearly falling into the hole I just dug. Lena's eyes were still shut. Her skin was cold, but unbroken, like she'd never died, like she'd only paused. But it wasn't her mouth. It looked like her mouth. It smiled like her, but it was too wide, too perfect. And when it curled like it had remembered being human, not like it was. I closed the coffin, not slowly. I slammed it shut, nailed it back down with the back of the shovel like a madman. Every thud echoed through me. Every strike felt like trying to seal something in. I didn't rebury her. I just left the box there, in the dirt, exposed, because now the fear wasn't what I dug up. It was what might crawl out. When I got back inside the house, I locked every door, boarded every window. I don't live in a mansion, just a two-story with creaky floors in a daughter's room I never touched since the day we lost her. And that's where I heard it again. Laughter, coming from upstairs. I held my breath, gripped the bed I kept by the kitchen door, and climbed each step like it was rigged to explode. Her door was cracked open. The same yellow glow from her favorite nightlight spilled across the hallway. I never plugged that thing in. I never even moved it after the funeral. And then I heard her voice, clear, sharp, like it had never left me. Daddy, why did you dig so deep? The bed dropped from my hand, because I knew that voice. I'd heard it 1,000 times for bedtime, before she'd whisper dreams into my ear. But this time, it was behind me. I turned. She was standing on the stairs. Same dress, same ribbon, same crooked front tooth, but her feet weren't touching the step. She hovered, barely, like the world hadn't decided what to do with her yet. And her smile. That wasn't Lena. Not anymore. You brought me back, Daddy. Now I want to bring back more. Episode 3, What She Brought With Her. She stood there floating just inches above the stairs and smiled like this was some kind of reunion. I miss you, Daddy. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't a memory either. It was a performance. Lena was gone. What stood in her place was a child-shaped echo, a hollow, something trying very, very hard to be what I loved. And the worst part, it was doing a damn good job. I took a step back. My knees were shaking. I wanted to scream, to run, to pretend I hadn't seen her fingers twitching in reverse when she waved. Instead, I whispered, "What are you?" She giggled, "I'm yours." Then she turned and floated down the hallway, into her old room. The door closed on its own behind her. I stood there for what felt like hours. The silence that followed wasn't natural. It was waiting. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the hallway outside her room with the bat back in my hands, staring at the door like it might blink. Around 2:30 a.m., I heard something move inside. Not footsteps, scraping, as if something was dragging its fingers along the wall, looking for a way out. And then the whispers started. Low, wet, not her voice. Dig deeper, she is the gate. Dig deeper, over and over. I stood, I turned the knob. The door wasn't locked, but it fought me. When it finally gave way, I found the room empty. No child, no bed, no floor. It was all gone. Just dirt, black, wet soil where the carpet used to be, roots growing through the walls. And at the center, a hole, shallow, for now, but fresh, like something had started digging up from the other side. And at the edge of that hole, Lena's ribbon, untied, stained, still warm. I didn't pick it up. I couldn't, because from somewhere inside that hole, I heard a second laugh. Not hers, not human, older, like something ancient had been listening beneath her coffin all along. Episode 4, The Thing That Wears Her Face. I didn't sleep that night, not after seeing the hole, not after hearing the second voice beneath it. I barricaded Lena's room, if you can still call it that. It's not a room anymore. It's a mouth. Something is trying to push through it, and it is helping dig from the inside. I should have run, should have called someone, the police, a priest, anyone. But how do you explain that your dead daughter came home and brought something with her that wants to be born? You don't. You just sit there, too afraid to blink. By morning, the dirt had spread, not just in the room, through the hallway, under the walls. It's growing. When I opened the bathroom door, the tub was filled with soil. The mirror cracked. Written across it, in small muddy handprints, she is not the Northeast. I stumbled back, slammed the door, vomited in the sink. Then I heard the front door creak open. I ran to the stairs, and there she was, Lena, sitting at the bottom, holding a doll she was buried with, the one I made the mistake of including in the coffin. Its eyes were gone now, its mouth sewn shut. She looked up at me. Couldn't I go outside? Daddy, the way she said it, like she'd never been dead, like 5 years had never passed, like this was all normal. I couldn't answer. I just stared. Then I saw it, the thing under her skin. It shifted, just for a moment, like something was pressing its face up through hers, wearing her like a mask that didn't quite fit. Her smile lingered too long, her eyes blinked out of rhythm, and when she stood, her bones didn't move like they should. That wasn't Lena. It was a creature learning how to pretend to be her. She walked to the front door, her feet never touching the ground. If I bring them here, she said, will you help me dig? I didn't answer. I locked the door behind her. She didn't try to open it. She just stared at me through the glass, smiling, waiting, because she knows I won't call for help. She knows I still see my daughter in her. And worse, some part of me, some broken, grieving piece, wants her to say. Episode 5, The Other Children. She came back the next night, not alone. 3 children stood behind her. They didn't speak, they didn't blink, and none of them had faces, where mouths should have been just smooth skin, pale and tight. Their eyes, hollow, not black, not bloody, empty. Lena smiled. They were waiting underground. Daddy, I helped them find their way up. I slammed the door shut, bolted every lock, pushed furniture in front of it, but they didn't move. They just stood there, watching, or pretending to. At 3:17 a.m., I heard scratching, not at the front door, inside the walls. The sound of small fingers dragging along beams, crawling through insulation, pressing against the pane like it was paper thin. I could feel them inside the house, not breaking in, growing in. I went upstairs. Her room had changed again. The hole in the floor had widened, almost filled the entire space now, and in the dirty soft shapes, tiny arms, half-formed legs, like children were being assembled in the soil, built, not born. And all around the edges of the room, drawings, crude, scrawled in something bad and shiny, little houses, graves, people with X's for eyes, and in the center of each picture, a smiling girl with no shadow. I backed away, heart pounding. Something was wrong with time. The hallway behind me stretched afar. My footsteps echoed when I didn't move. Then Lena's voice, close, right behind my ear. They don't want to be buried anymore. Daddy, they want homes. They want names. I ran downstairs, into the garage, grabbed a can of gasoline. I don't remember lighting the match. I just remember the fire, crackling, burning, consuming the room where she slept. And I remember her scream, not out of pain, out of betrayal, like a daughter watching her father kill something she loved. The flames didn't spread. They stopped at the doorway, and when I looked into the fire, I saw her, untouched, standing in the center of it, still smiling, still growing. Episode 6, The Nursery Below. I thought the fire would end it. I thought if I burned the room, burned the hole, I could seal it all shut again, force her back into the ground where I left her. But the flames didn't spread. They bowed to her, and the next morning, there were flowers growing through the ash. Not normal flowers, teeth, tiny white teeth sprouting like petals from black stems. Down scenes of them, smiling at the sun. I didn't touch them. I went to the backyard, to the place I dug her up. The coffin was gone, not buried, gone. In its place, a new opening, wider, deeper. I don't remember digging it, but the shovel was still in my hands. I stood at the edge for a long time, listening. The dirt was breathing again, and underneath, something else. Soft thuds, wet movement, cries, not adult, not animal. Even, I climbed down. I don't know why. Curiosity, guilt, some leftover part of me that still hoped I could hold her again. The tunnel was narrow at first, roots brushing my arms like fingers. Then it opened into a chamber, a dome of soil and bones. Down scenes of tiny cribs, hand-carved from rotting wood, each one filled with something that looked like a child, but not quite. They were still forming, limbs bending in the wrong direction, smiles appearing before faces. Some had no heads, some had too many, but every one of them wore a piece of her. A sock, a hair ribbon, a scrap of her blanket. I thought I'd burned with the fire. And in the center, a rocking chair, and her, Lena, braiding her hair, humming to the things in the cribs, feeding them handfuls of dirt. She looked up at me. They're almost ready, Daddy. They just need names. I backed away, hit my head on the ceiling, fell. When I opened my eyes again, I was in my bed, clean, no dirt on my hands, no bruises, no tunnel, but the nursery monitor on my nightstand was on. It hasn't worked in years. Through the static, I heard her voice. Don't forget, you named me too. Episode 7, where her name was written. They say names are powerful. They're anchors, words that bind a soul to a body. When Lena was born, I whispered her name into her ear before anyone else could. The nurse called it sweet, but I remember what I felt when I said it, like I'd etched it into her, like the sound of it would never leave her skin. Now I wonder if I carved it too deep. I haven't spoken her name since I saw the nursery beneath the house, but it still echoes in the hallways, in the walls, in my head, over and over. And not just my voice anymore. Others, voices I don't recognize, voices not from here. This morning, I woke up to dirt in my mouth, my fingernails caked with mud, my feet bare and bleeding. I checked the backyard. There was another hole, smaller, shallower, and at the bottom, a name, written in bone fragments. Lena. I stared at it for hours, because it wasn't just her name, it was mine too. Below her spelled out in fingernail scratches on stone. Daddy. I ran back inside, heart racing, tried to call someone, anyone, but the phone only rang once set and connected without a dial tone. A child's voice answered. You already gave her to us. Now she's giving you. I threw the phone. It didn't break. It smiled. That night, I walked past her room, what's left of it. The door was open, no longer burning, no longer empty. Inside, walls made of cradlewood, hundreds of names carved into them. Some I remembered, neighbors, teachers, strangers I passed on the street, and one I hadn't heard in over 30 years. My mother's. In the corner, Lena stood barefoot in the soil, holding a book made of stitched-together names, some written in blood, others in milk teeth. She looked up at me. You gave me a name, Daddy. Now I want to give you one. She opened the book and pointed to a blank page. The soil around my feet shifted, tightening like hands. I tried to scream, but dirt filled my throat, and somewhere deep beneath the house, a mouth began whispering a name I didn't know, but that somehow already belonged to me. Episode 8, the name you can't unhear. The name is still echoing in my head. Even now, even while I speak to you, I don't know how to say it. Not out loud, not all at once. It curls on my tongue like a vine made of ash. It's not spoken, it's remembered, and I don't know who remembered it first. Maybe Lena, maybe something inside her, maybe something older than both of us. Since the night I saw it in her book, things have changed. The mirrors in the house stopped reflecting me. They show her instead. Not Lena, not exactly. Something wearing her smile. Taller, hungrier, eyes blackened from absence, but from depth, like they've seen too many names written into many graves. Yesterday, I woke to dirt under my sheets, more teeth in the kitchen sink, and handprints and all, damp on us in the walls leading into the basement. I never opened since she died, until now, because last night, the door opened on its own, and from below, I heard laughter, not playful, triumphant. I went down, step by step, into a space that shouldn't exist. The basement was deeper than the house, miles deeper. I walked through corridors carved in clay and bone, past doorways made of cribs stacked like bricks. Every wall whispered names, and one of them was mine, spelled backward, spelled wrong, but I knew it. And when I said it, the walls pulsed, a hum started, a heartbeat that wasn't mine. Then I heard her, "You've already started changing, Daddy. The name is only the beginning." I turned. She stood at the far end of the corridor, holding another child's hand, faceless, silent, waiting. Behind her more, down scenes, maybe hundreds, all of them remembering their names through her. And she said, "We don't bury people, Daddy, we plant them." That's when I saw it, the roots growing from my feet, not vines, words, script twisting from my skin into the ground, pulling me down letter by letter, my name unfolding, like I was never meant to carry it, only to be returned to it. I ran, or I thought I did, but I'm not sure I ever left, because now when I try to speak, the voice that comes out isn't mine, and it knows everyone's name but its own. Episode 9, Voices That Grow Like Roots. I don't remember the last time I said my name out loud. It slips from me more each day like breath in cold air, and I think that's the point. The more I forget who I was, the more they remember what they need me to be. The roots have spread across the house now, not visibly no all the time, but they're in the wood. The floorboards creak with rhythm now, like lungs. When I try to sleep, I hear them whispering beneath my bed. Their voices are small, familiar. I hear Lena's voice the most. "Let go, Daddy. It's easier if you let go." But it's not just her anymore. I hear others, down scenes, some laughing, some crying, some saying my name over and over again, but never in the right order, like they're testing how far they can bend me before I break. This morning, the window frames were full of teeth, not in the panes. In the wood, tiny molars, baby teeth, sprouting like buds from the sills, and they chatter when the wind blows. I tried to board them up, but every nail I hammered just disappeared into soft, pulsing bark. The house isn't a house anymore. It's a womb, and I think it's trying to give birth to something that looks like me. I found a mirror in the attic, an old one, covered in dust and sheets. I wiped it clean, hoping stupidly that maybe I could see myself one last time. I did, but it was the wrong version. The me in the mirror was smiling, not scared, not broken, smiling like Lena does, like it knew what was coming. Then it raised its hand and pressed its fingers to the glass. I didn't move, but I felt warmth in my palm. The mirror was breathing. Then it whispered, "We've grown enough voices now. Time to make the body." That's when I understood. Lena wasn't resurrected. She was replanted. And she was the first bloom, the prototype. I was never supposed to save her. I was supposed to follow her. And the voice that calls itself me, it's already speaking through others. I heard it tonight, down the street. A neighbor, chanting my old bedtime prayer in the dark. The one I used to whisper to Lena when she was scared. Now it's how they summon her, and I don't know if I should stop them or join in. Episode 10, The Blooming. They're blooming now, not flowers, not bodies, memories, except they're not mine anymore. They're being shared. I walked past the old gas station on Maple Street this morning. It's been boarded up for years, but I heard the voice of my daughter from inside, laughing, the same laugh from her 6th birthday party. The one with the pink cake and the balloon that floated off into the woods. Only the man inside wasn't her. It was Gerald Blake, 72, lives alone. When I stepped through the broken door, he turned to me, and in her voice, he whispered, "I kept the balloon, Daddy. It came back, just like me." His eyes were empty, not blind, not dead, rewritten, like someone had erased him and used the body as a page. I didn't stay. I couldn't. Because the more I hear her voice in others, the more I forget what she really sounded like. And, no, sometimes when I try to picture her face, I see mine. The house is worse. The roots have broken through the floor. They crawl across the walls, now engraving names in loops and spirals. Not carved, grown, and every night, I find a new one that I recognize. Last night, Lena. Tonight, me. But not my name. Not as I knew it. Just the word, Father. Written like a title. Like a role in a play I don't remember auditioning for. The hole in her old room is deeper now. I dropped a stone into it, waited, never heard it land, but something came up instead. A breath. It wasn't air, it was warm, and it carried a sound with it. A heartbeat, not mine, not hers. Something bigger, something that had been waiting underground for a name to grow into. I don't sleep anymore, but I dream while awake. I see the house following the neighborhood, roots crawling beneath porches, curling under pillows, wrapping around the tons of people who've stopped speaking because they're becoming soil. And Lena walks among them now. She doesn't hide anymore. She stands in the yard at night, face pale, eyes wide, hair floating like she's underwater. Sometimes she waves to passing cars. Sometimes they wave back. I think she's planting something in each of them. A word, a smile, a piece of what I dug up, and I know what comes next. The final bloom. Not a grave, not a god, just a memory so strong it eats the world one name at a time. And I think I'm the last one who still knows that this didn't start with a miracle. It started with a man, a shovel, and a daughter who smiled. Episode 11. The ones who answered her smile. They're not hiding anymore. I woke up this morning and there were people in my yard. Not strangers, not neighbors, familiar faces except too still, too perfect. Their eyes don't move, their mouths don't open, but they all smile like they remember me better than I remember myself, like they've already been here before. I counted 27 of them by sunrise, all standing in rows, barefoot in the soil, facing the house, waiting, and Lena stands in front of them, her ribbon gently blowing in wind that doesn't exist. She doesn't blink, she doesn't move, she just smiles. That same impossible smile I saw the night I opened her coffin. I closed every curtain, boarded every window again, lit candles, wrote prayers I am remembered in years. Didn't matter. At exactly 3:17 p.m., they begin to hum. No words, just vibration, low, deep, in sync with the heartbeat I now hear in the walls. The nursery monitor started up again. It hasn't been plugged in for days. From it came her voice, layered with others. They heard me smile. Daddy, they answered. Now let them in. I didn't move, but my hands did. I found myself walking to the front door, undoing the locks, pulling away the furniture. And when I reached the knob, my hand stopped. Not because of will, because of recognition. From outside, I heard my own voice say, "It's okay, we're home now." I didn't open the door. I ran to the basement, back into the roots, the names, the womb of whatever she is becoming. And at the very center, I found something new. A second coffin, smaller than the first, fresh. I didn't open it because I already knew what was inside. Me, or the part of me that didn't belong anymore. The part that remembered Lena as she was, not what she's become. I sat her there in the dirt, arms wrapped around myself, trying not to breathe too loud. But from the root walls came a slow, pulsing chant. Smiles are invitations. And he smiled first. That's when I remembered. The day I buried her, I smiled through the tears. Not from joy, from denial. I thought she was at peace. And now, she's giving that smile back to the world. One believer at a time. Episode 12. The smile that spoke first. They came inside. Not through the doors. Not through the windows. Through the walls. Like roots made flesh. They passed through the wood and the brick and the memory of the house. 27 of them, still smiling, still humming, still becoming. I didn't fight. I couldn't. They didn't touch me. They didn't speak. They just stood in every room, watching, listening, waiting for me to finish unraveling. I think they knew the end was near, but not for them. For me, I climbed to the attic that night, the highest place in the house, the furthest point from the dirt below. And that's when I saw the photograph. It was one I'd never taken, but it's Saturday on a table that hadn't been there before. A black and white portrait of Lena, smiling, but not as a child, as a woman, older, elegant, still barefoot, still wearing the yellow ribbon, and in her arms, me, not alive, not dead, planted, my body wrapped in roots, my face blooming with teeth, and behind us, above, a tree, no leaves, just mouths, hundreds of them, all open, all smiling, all mine. The caption below the photo read, "He smiled first, she learned to follow." I dropped the frame, the glass shattered, but the smile in the photo didn't fade. It was carved into the paper, permanent. By the time I went back downstairs, the others had circled around her. Around Lena, she stood on what used to be our living room rug, now pulsing soil. In her hands, she held a seed, pale, wet, still beating. She looked at me and said, "I grew you the way you grew me, and you grow the next." That was the deal, wasn't it? We bury what we love, but sometimes we bury it too deep. And the thing that grows back doesn't want to be grieved. It wants to be multiplied. She placed the seed in my hands. It pulsed with something warm, something familiar. My voice, laughing, crying, saying her name like it still had meaning. I didn't drop it. I didn't run, because now I know. I didn't dig her up. She dug through me. Episode 13. Planted in his image. I planted the seed, not because I wanted to, but because there was nowhere else for it to go. It pulsed in my palm like a heartbeat that had forgotten how to die. Warm, insistent, familiar. When I placed it in the dirt beneath the house or nursery, it didn't sink. The soil opened for it, welcomed it, like the earth already knew its name, like it had been waiting. The others gathered around me, still silent, still smiling, their eyes hollow, their mouths motionless. But in their stillness, I could hear praise, not spoken aloud, but felt, like the hum of roots touching for the first time, like the moment a flower begins to remember the sun. And Lena stood beside me, barefoot in the soil, her ribbon shining like a thread from some other world. "He'll look like you," she said, "but he'll speak like me." I didn't cry. There were no tears left, only growth. The house is gone now, replaced by something older than the wood that built it. A cathedral made of bones and memory. Its walls pulse with breath. Its floor shifts like skin in sleep. People come from towns away to kneel here, not because they understand, but because they remember something they never lived, a name they never gave, a smile that doesn't belong to them, but lives inside them anyway. They kneel, they hum, they wait. I sit beneath the roots now, where it's warm and dark and holy. I am the seed's first father, and its first soil. Above me, Lena walks the halls barefoot, humming lullabies to those who listen through the walls. And sometimes, when the wind shifts just right, I hear him, the one I planted, the one she'll raise. His voice is soft now, but it's growing. He speaks in a language made of bone and breath, of smiles and graves. And when he calls me, when he says, "Father," it doesn't sound like a word. It sounds like roots breaking open.